18th. Johnny Guns Investigation coming to you live on Wednesday night, bringing Delphi murder scene pics are leaked out. Just a quick rewind on what's going on. We're covering the Delphi, Indiana murders of poor little Abby and Libby, who had off from school one day back on February 13th, 2017. Beautiful day. They want to go to the park, which is the High Bridge, and have a beautiful day out there together as two teenage kids walking around and having a good time. Unfortunately, that day, they didn't realize that the alleged murderer, Richard Allen, was there stalking those kids. And the worst thing in the world that did happen was they were both murdered. So right now we're going to go ahead and go over some things and watch a video of some new evidence. Well, not evidence, some leakage of the photos of the murder scene, which is a terrible thing. I can't believe that this happened. A couple of days ago, Becky and I, True Crime Lounge, and I at Johnny Guns Investigation, did let everybody know that that might leak out. And unfortunately, it did. Brutal murder scene does not need to be released. And the number one thing to ask ourselves is, who? Who did this? Who released the pics? Now, remember, guys, I'm not a cop. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just here pointing out my opinion. So everybody, let's talk about this. Let's go ahead and message me. Let's talk about this together. What do you think? What do I think? And what does everybody think? My opinion is the defense attorneys. They leaked these pictures out there to go ahead and throw another curveball into the court. Because this week, you got to remember, tomorrow is the hearing. A big day tomorrow. So what can throw a nice curveball the week of the hearing? This. What's going to happen? What's the judge going to do? He's going to flip out. Definitely not going to like this in his courtroom. Who could have done that? The attorneys need to be held reliable to the fullest. Set an example. So we have some great footage tonight from my favorite, Court TV, on what's going on, about the release of the photos of these poor, beautiful kids, Abby and Libby. Never should have happened. So we're going to go ahead and share this video, guys, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it, and let's see what everybody thinks. So let's sit back and enjoy. I have no audio. Can you guys hear that? Because I'm not hearing it.
A result of papers that were filed by the defense in this case. Let's go back. Abby and Libby, these are the victims. These are the two friends who had a day off from school. It was a little bit warmer than it usually is in February. They went for a hike, the Monon High Bridge. Then they didn't show up when it was time to get picked up. And then the next day, their bodies were found. It was a brutal, brutal crime scene. But everything that happened at that crime scene and the images, et cetera, have all been sealed. They've been sealed away from public dissemination. Now, an arrest was made 5 years later. This is the man, Richard Allen. He's the one charged with the murder. He admits being on the Monon High Bridge that day, being in the area that day. After he was arrested, he confessed to his wife on the phone from the jail, but he is now claiming that that confession was coerced by guards who intimidated him, guards who were part of this Odinistic group wearing patches on their vests saying, "In Odin we trust," and with the three triangle symbols, basically telling the world they're Odinists. Why is this significant? Because the defense is also alleging that the crime scene itself had evidence of an Odinistic, ritualistic sacrifice, murder. and the Odinist guards are making him confess to protect the Odinist murderers. That's why all this is happening. And now we're getting reports, not these photos taken by our own Judge Ashley when she was there, but we're getting reports that actual pictures of the crime scene have been leaked.
It's nuts.
What's the story behind all of that? Let's bring in our special guests. Joining us in Indianapolis, Indiana, hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast, Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee are with us. Great to have you both here. I'm so glad you're here. Folks, download the podcast right after the show. You'll get even more details about all of these developments. So these crime scene pictures under seal, not for public dissemination, apparently have been disseminated to the public. You guys investigated the source of all of this. Explain to us how you got involved in investigating this and what you uncovered.
Well, we got involved actually when we received a copy of some of these crime scene photos. I don't think we really want to go into what was exactly in those photographs, but I will say that they were graphic and certainly something that should not be seen outside of a jury or courtroom setting. The person who sent the images to us indicated shortly thereafter that he felt remorseful about his role in bringing these pictures to light. And he asked us to share with law enforcement all the information he had about the person who sent them to him. And as it turned out, he received them from a person we identified only as R. And R actually got them from a friend of his who formerly worked for the defense firm in this case.
Mm-hmm. On the defense.
So the leak goes to goes all the way back to the defense. Do we know anything about the motivation behind this? Do we know any more about the person who is? I mean, was there a reason behind the leak?
We don't really have too much information on a specific motivation. Reading between the lines of the correspondence that we witnessed, it seems like there could be possibly an element of sort of curiosity in the case taken to a degree that was obviously inappropriate and violated boundaries for sure, but may have not necessarily had ill intent. And nothing we saw indicated that the defense attorneys were directly involved in this leak or that they directed the leak. Everything kind of went back to this former employee. And I suppose what we're trying to figure out now, and I'm sure what the court wants to know, is was there a level of negligence here that former employee accessed these items, or is there another explanation?
And do we know if the court is going to address this at any point?
Yes, it is going to address, the court will address this on Thursday, that this hearing that kind of mentioned vaguely other matters that have arisen recently.
And we're hearing behind the scenes that there is a possibility of severe repercussions for the defense, up to and including the possibility that one or both of the defense attorneys will be removed from the case.
Wow.
It's going to be something.
That could get ugly depending upon, and do we know anything about the relationship at this point, Richard Allen and his defense team? Right now, these are appointed attorneys, right?
Yes.
Yes, they are appointed attorneys. They are public defenders. I can tell you just from witnessing interactions in the courtroom, of course, we've been at all the pretrial hearings in this case, the relationship between the attorneys and Richard Allen and between the attorneys and Richard Allen's family seems to be close. They seem to be very comfortable talking with his wife. His wife seems to be very comfortable with them. There seems to be a real level of emotion and genuine care there. And of course, the defense attorneys have strenuously maintained from the beginning that Richard Allen, their client, is actually factually innocent of these crimes.
That's great.
That could get very tense if there's interference with that client attorney, if that's his counsel of choice. So things could get really, really intense inside that courtroom. Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, I know we'll be speaking again this week if you are available. So thank you both so much. The Murder Sheet podcast, download it, folks, and then listen as soon as this show ends. Otherwise, they start listening. They're not even going to watch my show. Thanks so much, guys. Great to see you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, let's bring back in our think tank. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt with us. All right. This is serious stuff, Darnell. Serious stuff, and there's the judge not going to be happy when things are leaked like that.
At all.
If it goes back to the defense, how do you think this plays inside of a courtroom if somehow it's either through negligence or whatever that the defense made the mistake and caused the leak of these crime scene photos?
It's a tough one because I can't say that I like all judges, and I definitely don't like their rulings. If the prosecution does something, it's okay. Nothing to see here, folks. Anything happening to defense, here comes the avalanche. So in this particular case, what struck me is what you said. Normally, you have a right to a defense attorney of your choice, Sixth Amendment right. In this case, it wasn't of their choice. It was appointed to him by the public defender's office. Was appointed by the court, I guess. But once they establish a relationship that they can rely on, they're knee deep in this case. I think it would be wrong for a judge to punish the defendant by taking away his attorneys. And I think that if that happens, that's totally wrong, and I think that should be appealed.
Yeah, I think there's ways to punish lawyers. I mean, the way you really want, if you want to punish a
In
lawyer,
your pocket, money.
take some money from them. Take some money from them.
Money.
Lawyer, Jennifer Brandt. Let me ask you this: jurisdiction to jurisdiction, judge to judge, case to case, the rules are always different about what information, which is all public information, becomes public and when it becomes public. I've covered cases in the great state of Florida where we see everything before the trial even starts, and the trial goes on. So in a case like this, I understand why they want to keep this information from the public. First of all, protect the family, protect the victims, et cetera. But in terms of protecting the case itself, I don't think there's going to be any damage in photographs that are evidence that are leaked. I mean, because we have cases, plenty of them in our history, especially here at Court TV, where we see everything before the jury sees it, and we still get a trial. So what are your thoughts about the leaking of these crime scene photos, brutal, horrific, of these two young girls?
You know, Vinny, I think for what you just said, I think that's the problem that goes on here. That you're talking about children and leaking crime scene photos of
Underage children.
I don't think is the right thing, and it shouldn't be done before the actual trial. This is, as the podcaster said, this should be information that should be shown in the courtroom at the time of the trial and not beforehand. Especially here when you're dealing with this situation of this Odinism, where allegedly the way the bodies were arranged and certain items that were at the crime scene may, there's a theory that may indicate some kind of cult-like or these Odinist type of behavior. So I think it is prejudicial to release these photographs beforehand. Shouldn't have been done. And I do think the attorneys or whoever is responsible for leaking them should be sanctioned,
sure,
taken out of the case, but perhaps sanctioned to prevent something like this from ever happening again.
Definitely.
Al, do you think this helps anyone in the case? If these things are released and somehow at some point, no one has put it on the internet. Our understanding is there are some people who may have talked about receiving it. Anya and Kevin deleted what they had. They're not going to describe it. They're not going to tell anyone what they saw. They deleted the image. But if there's other folks who received it, and if one person ever puts it on the internet for 1 second, it'll be there forever and it'll spread like wildfire. We know that. But does that help anyone in this case or hurt anyone in this case?
Well, it can help.
Defense.
The defense argue that they can't get a fair trial because, anyone who sees these photographs is going to be.
But what if it's the defense
prejudiced.
that leaked it? Can you leak it on one hand and then say we can't get a fair trial on the other? I mean,
Mhm.
are they allowed to talk out of both sides of their mouth?
Vin, this is Odinism, right? Okay. Loki is the god of mischief,
Oh, God.
and Loki is one of the tenets of Odinism. So let's chop it all up to Loki. He's the one who did this on
This
this,
is
and it goes from
Doing
there.
it now.
I mean, this is the
He's
most
talking out both
bizarre
sides
religion.
now.
Potty mouth, quiet.
Oh,
Situation. This is a family show, Darnell. Please. Okay. Now the situation is that you've got this ridiculous religion to begin with.
seriously.
You're going to have to get a jury involved, and if it's just and like in this situation, the lawyer has to have some sort of control of his office. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, how can you blame him for something that somebody did in his office?
Mhm.
Not necessarily their
You can
fault.
blame them,
And as long as they don't have a
that's
head.
it's his job to control, or the lawyer's job to control what goes on in the office. I mean,
And you find
you
them,
can
and
control that.
you find them, okay, and you put sanctions against them, okay. Maybe you bring them up on an ethics charge, but you're not going to
You
throw
guys
them out
forget
of the case
it's
at
the
this
public
later date.
defender's office. It's the public defender's office. They're huge.
I'm a public defender. I've been a public defender for 15 years. Okay.
So here we go, folks. What's going to happen? Is this really the truth going on right now? Did this really leak out? I mean, and why? It's definitely going to be the defense attorney, like they said. If it was somebody in your office and you let it happen, you are in charge of everything there. This comes back on the attorneys, and it will. And the other thing is this religion odism. In this small town of Delphi, Indiana, of 3,000 of population, such a small town, and it's being overwhelmed by this Odinism, this cult. And then here we have the alleged murderer, Richard Allen, who we have the hearing tomorrow on Thursday, not the trial. That'll be coming up. It's probably going to be pushed now. Could walk away. And now you got to remember, this is my alleged opinions. Do I feel that he murdered those girls? No. But I do feel that he was 100% involved on leading those young girls, Abby and Libby, down that hill, across the lake, a little creek, to that other property, to this Odism cult, who brutally murdered these girls in their satanic way, the worst way anybody can imagine, placing their bodies, like they said. He was definitely involved. Do I think he murdered the girls? I don't think so, but he was involved. So he's 100% guilty in my book. So they need to come down and figure out what's going on with this religion odism. The prison guards are controlling Richard Allen, which I do believe that as well. They do have the power over him. If they're wearing these patches into prison, I do feel that it is a very high power. And they are controlling what he says. Like I said last week, he's the little puppet for this little organization. He was the guppy who led those girls down the hill, across the creek, to these sick individuals who did the worst thing imaginable to these two little girls that had a whole life ahead of them, and the way they had to have suffered. So now their families have to go through the worst pain before, but now the pain has to relive because they know everybody is going to visually see their little girls in the worst way imaginable to anybody's thoughts. And the other day when we had a show, Becky and True Crime Lounge and myself, Johnny Gunn's Investigation, we mentioned this. And we were hoping that this never was going to be released. But I did say that the defense or the prosecuting attorneys will have to come out with something hardcore and strong to throw a curveball. Well, the defense attorneys came up with that. So now let's see what's going to happen tomorrow. This judge is going to flip out. Is he going to fire them? Is he going to fine them? What's going to happen? Something has to be done because he's not going to like this in his courtroom. Those pictures never should have been released because now it's going to be all over the internet no matter what. You know that. I'm sure TMZ has already got their hands in it and the money coming. They'll buy everything. This should not be released. So I hope everybody enjoyed that video tonight. I wanted you guys to see it. I had some technical difficulties. It took me 3 goes to get this out, but we finally got it out. Tomorrow, we'll definitely be on covering this hearing to see where it's going to go, where it's going to take us. And let's just pray that this Richard Allen, the alleged murderer, does not walk. Does not walk. We have to make sure that justice is served on this for these little girls and their family, because this has been going on for a long time. February 13th, 2017. This has been going on. The family needs closure. So let's make that happen for them. So everybody, let me know what you thought tonight. Hit that like button, subscribe. We have a lot more things coming. Always going to bring you guys the updated crime investigations, all the news we can, and media right to your door. So subscribe and like Johnny Gunn's Investigation on a beautiful Wednesday night, October 18th. You guys have a great night. Enjoy your week. And don't forget, everybody be safe out there. Have a good night.